In this video, I'll show you a free-to-play team to score high in SOS against the Seiryu. So the boss only really has one gimmick, which applies to both the stages here. So this gimmick here is basically every turn the stage will inflict a random element on the boss, and then it will increase their damage taken by 10%. And this thing is useful especially for Vino and Queen, of course. Since this stage is designed for Queen, it means that this stage is also single target, which is why I'll be using Fluoret again. But before we talk about him, let's see the gimmick of this boss. The boss does have one gimmick. So at the start of battle, you have 2 stacks of these Azure scales, and then it gains 1 stack every single turn. And every stack it has, it decreases the damage taken by 15%. So you do want to remove the stack. And the way you remove it is by hitting the weakness, which is nuclear. Which is why Vino is super important for this thing. You need Vino here, or else this is not gonna work. And then once you remove all the Azure scales, your team will get a buff, a damage buff. So you have to remove it every single turn in order to gain a buff and make sure that the boss doesn't have any damage resistance to your team. And again, to remove the stacks, you just use Vino. And since Vino cycles through skill 1 and skill 3, it means that she will always be attacking, which means the boss will always be at 0 stacks after using 1 Vino highlight. Because remember that at the start of battle, the boss has 2 stacks, which means that Vino needs to hit 2 attack in a turn, which is a skill and a highlight, in order to remove the 2 stacks, which you can do on the second turn, which I'll explain later in the battle. With the release of Vino, Fluoret has become even better now, because Fluoret is single target, Vino is also single target, and Vino debuffs defense. Let's just start with Vino actually. Vino is just a pretty good character. She's not only just for Queen, she works with other DPS unit, especially single target, because her buffs are all single target, and her buffs, her debuffs are pretty good also. Skill 1 can debuff defense, and the more defense scales on your armor accuracy, and skill 3 can increase the damage taken by the opponent, which scales also on armor accuracy. So you do have to build her with armor accuracy, which sadly mine is not well built because I don't have the cards required. My cards are not good. I don't even have the card for star. I think you're supposed to put an armor accuracy for this stock, which I don't even have, so that sucks. But let's go back to the skill. Her highlight can inflict ailment, which is not that important for this fight. As if you're using Queen, this is important, but then I'm not using Queen, so it's not that important. But the important thing with the highlight is that I can remove the Azure stacks. And then other than that, she basically just debuff, inflict ailment, and then she also inflicts radiation on foes with the ailments, which also increase damage. You can basically just a bunch of debuff. So she's pretty good. Then the card I showed briefly just now is a prosperity set again, because I need 1 for this team. This battle actually has 7 turns, so you actually don't need this prosperity set, because with or without this prosperity set, you are guaranteed 4 highlights in the battle. 5 if you have Queen at A6. But I need this because my position is a little bit specific, which I'll talk about in the persona section, which is why I need this. If you don't have this, you can run like a different one, which is the same with the Soy, I think. Departure and something? Control and Departure, I think, this one. But just note that it doesn't stack. Departure and Control doesn't stack with this one. So you have 2 members of using the same set, they won't stack. So just keep that in mind. I'll have to use a prosperity set to make sure I can do a specific action. Now her weapon, I have a 4-star weapon, basically just some debuff stuff, more debuff with the element. Then the stat screen. And like I said, my Vino is not well built, 37.8% is terrible. The recommended is literally 140%. I'm nowhere close to that. So if you have higher armor accuracy, you're gonna score a lot higher than me, hopefully. Now let's talk about the DPS, which is Fluoret. So again, another free to play guy, another Fluoret video. Fluoret, like I already said many times, he's really good. Skill 3 does the most damage, and I'll be using skill 3 only for the entire fight. And I'll be highlighting on the last turn as well. And you just remember that you need to inflict the windsweep for him to do big damage. Revelation, the power set for some attack. Weapon is a 4-star weapon, which is more damage. Then the stat screen here. Nice, rare is decently built here. With almost 100 crit multiplier, which is pretty good. Crit rate can definitely use to work, but I don't have the cards, okay. Now our sustain will be Soy. He is also there for the debuff, because he can do also single target debuff with this skill 2 and also gun. So I'll be using only gun and skill and the skill 2. Thankfully this stage doesn't hit that hard, even though there's like 7 turns. The boss doesn't actually hit that hard, because there's like 2 turns it will spend buffing itself. so it won't actually attack you for 2 turns. The Revelation set, which is the one I just said, Control and Departure. So this one will basically just debuff and use a skill. So extra defense debuff. Very nice. This is a 4-star weapon for more HP because his damage scales on HP. Then we have the stat screen here. Okay, Navigator we have Puppet. Puppet is just there for some tank, sustain, defense and shields. And then Revelation card is also defense and shield stuff here. And then weapon, 4-star weapon. Also defense shield, and then the stat screen, this one. Now to Wonder's persona, this one is, I would say, probably the most important one. Before that, with weapon, I'll be using the new weapon here. You can get from the shop for free now. This is just money for the debuff here. So a 4.5% defense debuff for every elemental ailments the opponent has, which is useful for this stage because the boss will get inflicted with ailment every turn, and then Vino can also inflict ailment. So we have some debuff. So Fluid can do even more damage. Now for persona, the first persona we have is Narcissus with Spike to inflict Windswept and debuff. Make sure to give him Rakunda also to debuff the defense. And if possible, Windswept boost to increase the chance of Windswept. Magia Master 2 also. The important thing is that for this rotation to actually work, your Wonder actually has to be the second to move. Very important. Not first, second for this to work. And then Fluid has to be the fourth. So 2 and 4, this one is a must. For Vino and Soy, if you flip them, it's still okay. But ideally, you want Vino to be first, Soy to be third. Because Vino can remove the stacks, right? Like I said, the Azure stacks. When Vino removes the stacks, the boss will take more damage and you will do more damage also. Which means that your other 3 characters can do more damage. Since the other 3 characters are actually gonna use attacking moves. So you'll increase your points more. But if you flip these 2, I think it's still okay. The rotation should still work. Wonder must be second, Fluid must be fourth for this to work. The next one is Norn. Norn is there mainly for Garudan actually, for the Windswept, because the Windswept can debuff the defense by quite a bit, 22.8%. But the chance of Windswept is only 64%. So make sure to give the boost. So this fight is going to be a bit luck based also. Next one we have Kushinada. So the reason why Wonder needs to be second to move is because of Kushinada. I won't actually be using her skill at all. What I'll be using is her highlight. If you don't have Kushinada, or if you're not planning to use her, use another, like the buffer support, what you call this, strategist, use another one of these because we need tier highlight. And I'll be actually just switching the persona to her, use the highlight, then I'll change back to another one of the 2 personas again to use their skill. So that's why Wonder needs to be the second to move. And with that, we can start. Vino first. So Vino is skill 1 here. And using a nuclear move, you decrease the Azure scales. It has 2 stacks at the start. And then by using a nuclear, you will -1. So you will have 1 more. And this 1 scale will decrease the damage the enemy takes. Which means that we actually have to hit it twice. But we can only do that in the second turn with Vino's highlight. And then once you remove the scale, you will get a damage buff. Sadly, the damage buff doesn't stack, because every turn the damage buff will be gone. And then the boss will get back 1 stack of this scale every turn. So every turn you do have to attack it to remove it, which is why we have to use Vino for this fight, because she's nuclear. Which also means that we can actually get the damage buff every single turn because we keep hitting the boss, and then the boss stack will decrease. And then the next turn it will increase again, then we will decrease it with Vino. So every turn we get the damage buff, so that's very useful. So for Wonder, I will actually use Norn, Garudai. Ideally, you want to inflict Windswept here. It did not. Okay, that's unfortunate. I'll actually just continue this. Our skill 2 with Soy. So thankfully the boss doesn't hit that hard here, so you don't have to worry about the sustain. If your Soy is decently built, then it should be fine. This can do very little damage. We don't have Windswept. Okay. Thankfully Fluid doesn't get the freeze, because freeze is a bad stat to have because it decreases your attack. So you'll do less damage. Thankfully Fluid doesn't have that. Okay, skill 1 Puppet. And Vino will use skill 3. My game is glitching for some reason. But anyways. Okay, now the Azure stack is gone. Oh no, sorry, it's not going yet. It's now back to 1 again. Because on the first turn it reduced from 2 to 1, right? And then the 1 will increase back to 2. And then I use another nuke, so it's now at 1. And to remove that completely, I just have to use Vino skill, which is why I have to use it on the second turn. Because the earlier you remove the scale, the more damage you can do later on. Not more damage, but like the more consistent damage you can do. Okay, now it's gone. Now we all get the damage buff, which is this one, the Seiryu Might. 30% damage buff is pretty big, so that's very useful. Now I'm gonna use go to Narcissus, use Rakunda. He still doesn't have Windswept. Looking pretty bad. Now we use Soy Gun. We gun until debuff. Okay, good. Only two turn to try. Then rescue 3. Yes, pretty bad damage. Okay, now 5 stacks. Press 5 stacks sounds pretty good. Okay, now if we know we use skill 1. No Windswept. Okay, now the stack is back to 0 again. So we get damage off again. So that's useful. Okay, I'll use Spike. Okay, finally we got a Windswept. And then we have skill 2, debuff. And Fluid now should do decent damage. Oh, before that, we highlight with Wonder to debuff. Now skill 3 should do pretty good, hopefully 30k. Oh wow, that's way more than 30k. That's almost 50. Nice one. Oh, got the freeze. That kinda sucks. Okay, now we skill 1. Puppet. Okay, we know skill 3. So this stage is very good for Vino because every stage the boss will get inflicted with an ailment, which will directly buff like Vino because Vino's skill can scales on a number of ailments, right? Like skill 3 especially, the target's damage taken is increased based on the number of ailments. Okay, so now we go to Kailux. Please inflict the Windswept so we can debuff, please. Okay, there we go. Skill 2 again. Threat gets skill 3. I think this will do even more damage. Oh yeah. Oh, now that's beautiful damage. 53. Oh, I've already got a freeze. That sucks. Okay, now skill 1 with Vino. Now Wonder's highlight. So like I mentioned, you have to have Wonder to be the second to move because on this very turn, you swap to Kushinada to use her highlight to buff the party's damage. So one has to be the second to move for this entire rotation to work. And then after that, we switch back to Narcissus Rakunda. Okay, now we can use skill 3 with Puppet. Now we just hope that the boss doesn't target Fluid because we want his shield to be on to get the damage buff. Because of 4 seashell stacks, right? So Fluid now has 4 seashell stacks here. And then you get the damage buff from this one. 16% attack buff. And now we gun again. No, yeah, we gun again. We can use everything here now to do a bit of extra damage. Okay, I think this skill 3 also can do good damage. 40k. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's good damage. Okay, so he gets back the stacks again. He gets back the stacks. Ooh, 500k. Ooh, that's a lot of points. So you get back the stack again. I know I'm repeating again, but I want to remind you that the scales always get back. And then Vino is there to always reduce, which is why Vino is the first to move. So if Vino is the first to move, she can remove the stack on the first turn, like the first action of the turn, which will allow your other 3 members to do damage. So we can use Cloud9. Please inflict the wind sweep. Come on. Damn it. That sucks. But Seiryu with skill 2 here. Okay, then we skill 3. Oh no, there's no need to use the highlight first. I'm gonna save it until the next turn. Okay, this last highlight will be F2P highlight. I'll use it next turn, because I still need to debuff it, so F2P can do maximum damage, and we can only use one more highlight anyways, so we can just save it. 40k again? Okay, very close. We were missing the buff from Norn, the Cloud9. Ah, freeze again! Okay, at least he still has his shield. Okay, skill 1. Wow, F2P did 38k without wind sweep, right? I think. I forgot. But that's a lot of damage. Now we use Spike. This should inflict wind sweep. So you skill 2. Now this is the last turn. So now with F2P highlight. 30k, pretty good. Then skill 3, hopefully high score. I don't think so though. Ooh, 45k. That's pretty good. I don't think it's a high score. My high score is 800k. Super close, I think. Very close. I think I missed 2 wind sweep on Cloud9. If I hit it, I think I'll break a new high score.